Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about For Whom the Bell Tolls, written by Ernest Hemingway. Now, before I go into summary analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and/or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. Now, this work by Ernest Hemingway, it's quite a long book. There's a lot that's going on within this book. It's a war. It's the Spanish Civil War here, and the things that are happening are quite gruesome. We get a lot of depictions of horrible things that happen between the people who are in the Republican side and the fascist side. So it's the Republicans versus the fascists. And, well, it's quite a bloody, bloody war. We have Robert Jordan, who is the main character, we can say, within this work. We follow him throughout this whole book, his journey. He's like the American that comes into the war. He volunteers. He's with a Republican guerrilla group. They're out in the mountains. He's assigned to blow up a bridge. And the part of the guerrilla group that he's from, they're in the jungle or the woods or in the wilderness, and they're in position, and they're a guerrilla group, and they're fighting the fascists. Um, in this camp, there's a lot of men. It's mostly men, and there's Pilar and Pablo. They're a married couple, and then there's Maria, a woman that Robert Jordan falls in love with, or as we can say, love in terms of warfare. A lot of times, you'll get stories or novels where people fall in love during warfare. For me, I think that's very, very impossible. What I mean by that is when you fall in love with someone when your life is on the line, emotions are running high, feelings are running high. The idea that you could be killed at any point in time, that's all these things have to be taken in because these people in the woods, they know that tomorrow they could die, they can get a bullet, something could kill them at any point in time. And so falling in love during war is very risky and very impossible because within this work, the work takes a lot of time to really dissect the relationship between Maria and Robert Jordan, and their relationship is naive. They have a lot of sex, and they think that they're in love. They think that they've discovered something world changing, world shaking type of love between the two of them. But I'm very skeptical of their relationship. I think it has to do a lot with the war that's going on, the idea that they could be killed at any time, and they're just enjoying themselves. They think that maybe they'll have a future, but it's highly unlikely. Throughout this entire work, we see that they're interested in each other, but the idea of them having a future is very impossible for the current circumstance that they live in. We learn a lot about the characters. Like, for example, Maria, it's very sad. We know that her father was killed, her mother was killed. She was raped because her father was a leader. Her hair was cut off, and she was, abused and beaten and raped by a group of men. We know that this highly affects her within the work. She's very naive, very innocent. She's very she thinks that she thinks the way that she processes love or thinks about love, it's not realistic. Robert Jordan says that he loves her, and she says that he loves him. But again, there's a lot of question marks. It's like, this is an American coming from America fighting in this war. He finds this girl that's been raped, and she has all these types of things that she's dealing with, and there's a lot to take in. There's the trauma of that circumstance that took place to her, that horrific circumstance that took place to her, the fact that she lost her family, the fact that she almost died, the fact that she has all these things to consider. She wants to be Robert Jordan's wife. But again, I think she's very naive, very childish, mentally. I mean, she's gone through a lot in the physical world, but mentally, her hopes and dreams for the future, I think, are misplaced. The book is not just about Robert Jordan and Maria, but it does focus a lot on their relationship and what they go through. There's mistrust within the guerrilla group. Within the book, we focus a lot on this specific guerrilla group. This is a book about warfare and this war that took place within Spain. But at the same time, I think the book focuses a lot on this specific group that Robert Jordan was in, and their, the nights when they were arguing each other. Pablo was the leader of the group, and he didn't want to blow up the bridge. Robert Jordan was pretty much there because he knew how to use dynamite. He was specifically there to blow up the bridge, and Pilar, Pablo's wife, she wants the bridge to be blown up. She's on that side, and so the camp was divided at some point. Everybody wanted to blow up the bridge, but Pablo didn't want to blow up the bridge, and eventually, Robert Jordan was about to kill Pablo, but then he changes his mind. He said, "Okay, I'll blow up the bridge with you guys." And there's a circumstance where he takes the explosive and the chargers and he throws them into the river, and then he comes back with 5 men and he's like, "No, I changed my mind. I was gonna betray you guys, but I'm for the cause now. I'm gonna help you guys blow up the bridge." They were thinking about killing him. They were close to killing him, but they never did kill him. So there's a lot of going back and forth between what to do, the relationship between Maria and Robert Jordan, the relationship between Robert Jordan and the other men. I would say there's I think it's tough because all of the men, they're well aware that they could die. They're well aware that they could die and that their lives could be over. And here's Robert Jordan, this American that's coming from another country, and he gets the Maria, the Spanish girl within between them, and he's having sex, he's enjoying himself with this girl, while all these other men are just kind of like trying to fight for their lives, and they're all alone while they know that death is knocking at their door. Pilar and Pablo, their relationship is quite rocky. At the beginning of their relationship, they were in love. They were killing fascists, they were defending, they were trying to win their country and fight for democracy and the common people, goodness, and all that kind of stuff. But now Pablo has kind of like he's kind of gone weak. He's no longer wants to kill people. At a certain point within the beginning of the war, he was killing people left and right, no remorse, no nothing. But as the war continues and rages on, I think the murders and the killings. I mean, all humans, this is why a lot of soldiers get PTSD when they go to war. As humans, we're really, killing is not really something that we're comfortable with. You could be the toughest human being. If you have a conscience, when you've killed somebody, it's heavy. It's a heavy thing to do, to take somebody's life. And so mentally, it does have an effect on you. And people, within the guerrilla group, they were questioning Pablo's motive. Was he still in it? Did he still have the right motivations? Was he still with them? So all that had to be considered and taken in. And we can say at some point that Pilar, Pablo's wife, it seemed as if she didn't trust Pablo anymore, or the strength that Pablo once have, the strength that she loved within him. She was the new leader, right? She was like, you're starting to be weak. You're not the man that I once knew, the leader, the brave man that I knew, and that's something that says a lot about the women, or women in general. One thing, when you look at Pilar, when you look at Maria, there's something about these bold, brave, confident men that they're attracted to. Because Robert Jordan comes in as this, tough American that seems to know what he's about. He's about to blow up a bridge. He's tough. He can use a gun. He's riding horses. He's like this hero within in the jungle, that knows what he's about. That's strong, right? And Maria's attracted to that. And the same thing, Pilar was attracted to Pablo when he was that strapping young individual fighting for the cause and brave and commanding and giving out L's everywhere, right? So that's something that this confidence, this energy, this bravado that these men put out. The women are, Pilar was attracted to that with Pablo, and Maria, she was attracted to that with Robert Jordan, because Robert Jordan was the tough American that was confident. He spoke Spanish. He felt, he acted like he moved like he knew what he was doing. He moved like he had all the answers. He's the American that's from the good country, the great country of America. He seemed like he had that bravado, that wisdom, that, the man that had the answers. And the camp kind of like really at certain points followed him because he seemed like that guy. He seemed like the guy. So the story goes on. Robert Jordan and Maria, they have all these tender moments when, in between all the killing and all the murder and all the warfare and all the planning and all the betrayal and all these things. They're confessing their loves to one another. They're sleeping together, and they say that they're having great sex and all that kind of stuff. And they're like thinking about, having a life in Madrid, and getting away together, and all these ideas of dreams together and all these kinds of things. They're not gonna go anywhere. It's they're dreaming flat dreams that will never come through. Come through. It's not gonna happen. And so ultimately, the story goes on. They move towards the end of the book. They move to blow up the bridge. Robert Jordan blows up the bridge, and different people die here and there. The book does go in, like, when you read the book for yourself. It's very important to read this book for yourself. The different characters are in here. They each come in at different times, and they each have their own parts. But specifically speaking, we know that these men, the guerrilla group that Robert Jordan specifically in, they have their own dreams and aspirations and things that they're thinking of. But one by one, they die. They do die. Not all of them, but you see them come and go. You see faces come and then go off and die. Robert Jordan, at the end of the bridge, he does blow up the bridge. And then at the end of the book, uh, his horse dies, and the horse tramples on him, and he breaks his leg. And Maria, they have to run away because the fascists are coming. And Maria, she wants to stay and be with Robert Jordan, but his leg is broken. He's know he's gonna slow them down, and so he stays behind with his gun. And they have to drag Maria away as the rest of the camp, as the rest of the guerrilla group, they run off. And Robert Jordan stays there with the gun of his gun is in his hand, and he's gonna hold off the fascists as they come. And the book pretty much ends there with Robert Jordan waiting for the fascists to come because he's broken his leg. He can't keep going with the group. The bridge is blown up, and we pretty much can see that he's going to die. So from that, we can conclude at the end of the novel that Robert, and Maria, they're not going to end up together. It's most likely that Robert Jordan ends up dead, and yeah, the book doesn't come to a pretty conclusion. It's this war that goes on. We don't get to the end of the war. We get introduced in the middle of the war. The war had already began when we get introduced to the guerrilla camp and Robert Jordan, and we don't see the end of the war. We see the separation of Robert Jordan and Maria. We see the guerrilla group planning and plotting to blow up the bridge, the betrayal between them, how they lived, how they were scared, how this war was, people were dying here and there, all the horrific things that happened to people being shot in the back of the head, fascists killing Republicans and Republicans killing fascists. And yeah, the book kind of ends in a place where, well, at least they got the bridge to blow up, but yeah. I mean, in terms of deeper meaning, in terms of an analysis here, I mean that's pretty much what happens in the book in terms of summary. But in terms of deeper meaning, in terms of analysis here, the book has a lot to say about warfare. The book has a lot to say about politics. It has a lot to say about Republicans and fascists. I mean, this summary is not, I'm not going to discuss the political and warfare aspect of this book, because if you're looking at this book for the political side and the warfare side, it's a very different book. But in terms of narrative, in terms of literary, like Ernest Hemingway, from the literary point of view, this book does give you a realistic, even though that, this is not war, but it gives you how war would be, um, if it was done, the way that it's portrayed within the novel. We see how Robert Jordan was moving around, how the people were moving around each other. I mean, when it comes to actual warfare, there is no humanity, right? Uh, when we're talking about civil war and all out warfare, men are getting killed in horrific ways, shot, killed, heads being chopped off, bodies being mangled and ripped apart. Um, men being shot. Kids being raped. Children being ripped away from their parents. People being shot at in horrific ways. For women, whenever it's all out warfare, no holds barred warfare, and that's one thing that's illustrated by this book. For women, it's always horrible because for the women, they have to watch their fathers, their leaders, their brothers. They have to watch them being killed, and then they have to at sometimes stay alive and be taken as prizes or being raped and all types of, because like for both Maria, other women that were killed, other women that were abused, they had to go through that. So when it comes to warfare, you do see the most wicked and evil parts of humanity, and the book really holds nothing. I mean, when Pilar talks about her experience in this war, when Maria talks about her experience in this war, it's like monsters devouring each other. There's no, all human indecencies are portrayed, and it's just, and you can't imagine the things that these people had to go through. Um, so this book definitely does illustrate the complete and utter, um, you know, depravity and horror and um, just how ugly warfare is. Whether you look at this book from the political standpoint of fascism and Republicans and democracy and which one, like, again, people will debate and talk about communism and fascism and Republican ideologies, and there'll be much debate for forever on which government is better, and different people have different ideas. I mean, across the world, there are communist governments. There are kings still on earth. There are Republican governments. There are democratic governments, and so these governments in different places, different regions, different continents of the world, they exist in some form or another on Earth still to this day. There are fascist ideologies that exist, not maybe not in an out loud manner, but they do exist, or parts of them parts of fascist beliefs still exist on Earth, and kings and queens and republics, and so ideas of how to govern, it's not one single conclusion as to which government is the best form of government, but different people have organized themselves in different ways. This is an example of what happened in Spain, or within this story by Ernest Hemingway, of what happened in Spain, and the results of it within this book are they don't give you a conclusion. It's just it shows you what happens, and ultimately, well, we don't come to a conclusion. Robert Jordan is pretty much, well, he's going to die. I mean, he's a volunteer from America that came to blow up a bridge, and he falls in love. But in warfare, that really doesn't matter. And Maria and the rest of the guerrilla group, they just have to keep on fighting until the war is over. So war doesn't really leave you with a happy ending. The war doesn't leave you with an happy ending. There's always casualties on both sides. There's always rebuilding that has to be done. I mean, the side that wins always celebrates, but there's always casualties on both sides. Whether it's humans dying, whether it's economics, whether it's just people's lives being ruined, and horrific things happening to both men and women. So yeah, but that is my summary analysis of For Whom the Bell Tolls by Ernest Hemingway. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.